My name is Mark Gerard. I'm the chair of teacher education here at Western Oregon University. I've been here for 10 years. I was a high school science teacher before completing doctoral studies at Michigan State University in educational psychology.
My name is Jonah Donaldson, and I'm the lead instructor in the intensive English program at Western Oregon University. I also teach graduate level classes in the computer science for education. I've been teaching for about 15 years. 10 of those years were in Osaka, Japan, and I worked there teaching English as well as other subjects including theater and directing.
Compulsory education plays an important role, I think, in the success of, at least in my life, and I hope it plays an important role in most people's lives. For me personally, my doctoral studies were absolutely transformative. I feel like I learned an incredible amount of stuff, but also just to think systematically and rigorously, but at the same time, all of the things that happen outside of school in your home life, growing up, and the kinds of conversations that you have with people outside of school, I think those all shape who we are as learners as well. My oldest brother loved science, and he would drag me outside at night to look at the moon, or he would tell me about the rocks and stuff, as we're driving around. And I know that I became a high school science teacher because of that, because of he engaged me in those things when I was, 10 years old.
When I was a kid, I didn't go to school. My mom and dad, very smart people, but they thought I shouldn't be exposed to all of the negative influences that are in schools. So they were planning to start my education around 7 or 8 years old, but they started with my brother when he was around 7 and I was younger than him, and they taught him how to read. And I didn't like that he was learning stuff that I wasn't learning, so I just suddenly started reading. And he didn't like that very much because he struggled a lot at first, and I was just like picking it up because I just wanted to beat him. It's kind of fun. Anyway, so after that, then my parents put me and my brother together in all of our learning experiences. We didn't use textbooks. They took us to the library every weekend and said, get 5 books, any books, your choice, whatever's in the library you can study. And during the week, study the 4 or 5 books. That was the core of the education, and in addition to this, then there were a lot of internship type situations where I would go work in like a medical lab or something. Even like 12 years old, 11 years old, I was off doing these really fun things. Like I was helping a physical therapist for a while, and I was working in a medical lab for a while, and I worked in a hospital's computer system. Well, I was basically data entry intern, but I really learned how the computer system worked there and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I took tests, not every year, but maybe every other year. My parents thought I should take the standardized tests. I don't remember which one, Michigan or something like that. Just to compare, to make sure I'm on track and not falling behind or anything. But every year my results would always put me at about 8 to 10 grades ahead of other kids my age, so they never worried about it much. And I didn't think it was really a test. I thought it was just something fun to do.
And as a teacher, I think success is when your students see the world differently as a result of what you're trying to teach them. I mean, if all we do in school is learn stuff that helps us pass a test, or if we only learn stuff that matters inside of a classroom, that's not success, in my opinion. Success is about learning to see the world and wanting to live differently in the world because of what we learned.
I'm gonna steal a definition of success from Benjamin Zander, who said, "My definition of success is how many shining eyes are around you." And so I want to steal that one. For me, success is, I am successful if there's shining eyes around me, and my students are successful if their eyes are shining.
It was totally life-changing. People in my orchestra came up to me and said, "Ben, what happened?" That's what happened. I realized my job was to awaken possibility in other people. And of course, I wanted to know whether I was doing that. And you know how you find out? You look at their eyes. If their eyes are shining, you know you're doing it. You could light up a village with this guy's eyes. Right, so if the eyes are shining, you know you're doing it. If the eyes are not shining, you get to ask a question. And this is the question: who am I being that my players' eyes are not shining? We can do that with our children too. Who am I being that my children's eyes are not shining? That's a totally different world. Now, we're all about to end this magical on the mountain week, and we're going back into the world. And I say it's appropriate for us to ask the question, who are we being as we go back out into the world? And you know, I have a definition of success. For me, it's very simple. It's not about wealth and fame and power. It's about how many shining eyes I have around me.
I'm really nervous about what we're doing with schools today. I see this with my own kids. You know, school has become a series of hoops to jump through instead of a way to open up the world for them. You know, the world is just an infinitely interesting place to be, and somehow in schools we screw that up.
I'm a little worried about the future. We have to get rid of tests in all forms. No more standardized tests, no more tests, period. Let's just work on more creativity and developing skills rather than knowledge.
What we do in the real world is we solve complicated, poorly structured problems. We work together with other people. We go out and we find knowledge that helps us solve those problems. And then, you know, we try to develop some compelling argument that says, that helps us try to move forward. But in schools and classrooms, we operate completely differently. We ask kids to do their work independently. We ask them to draw on knowledge that they have in their head, not knowledge that exists in the world, at least often. We give them tightly structured problems, you know, or you know, situations where they don't necessarily have to think outside the box. In fact, we punish kids for thinking outside the box, you know. And I just think right now that there's a terrible mismatch between what we do in the real world and what we do in schools. And I think trying to close that gap is what we need to do.
Historically, the American education system has developed creativity more than most other countries in the world. And like, where were things invented? Like, most of our computer technology in the world was invented in America. Most of our other technologies, cars and stuff like that, a lot of inventions originated here because we value creativity. And schools have done a good job until recently of valuing creativity. And now there's a big clash between those teachers who value creativity and want to help students develop their creativity, and the system coming down on them and saying that's not important, what we need is test results.
What we're doing right now is way over on the technical side. It's about passing tests. It's about giving kids test-taking strategies and really targeting kinds of knowledges and understandings that I'm not sure lead to the kinds of out-of-school success.
These should all be tools, and they should all be very firmly integrated into the learning, not as some support or not as something fun to do on the side. It should be part of the core part of learning. So technology, for example, I believe project-based learning has been pretty much proven to be the best way. And if students are together in groups working on projects, what better way to do it than using all kinds of technology that they can get their hands on, right?
I think technology in the hands of a gifted teacher who understands teaching, content, and how technology can serve those, yeah, I think that's a really powerful recipe. I don't think I'd be a good politician because I don't have a 12-second answer to this question, you know? I think the answer is first to get us off of this pressure to have this achievement testing, that kind of stuff. I'm not anti-assessment. I think testing, or I think assessment is an important part of education. But we have limited resources with which to educate our children. So the result is we've developed a bunch of tests that are easy to administer, easy to score, and fairly cheap to do that. So if I had a ton of money like you're talking about, I'd develop those kinds of tests that measure students' abilities to apply knowledge in real-world situations.
It would be like a school, but it wouldn't be a school. The students would use that location as their base, but they would spend a large portion of their time in the community. I would have ties with community groups, businesses, government, all kinds of things, so that students would be out doing projects in the real world for the majority of their time. So it'd be project-based learning, but not within the walls of the school. That's just where they come to organize and report and stuff like that. But most of the time they would be out on their own in teams in the real world.
Good teachers know their content well. They know what they're going to teach. They know how to teach and how to engage kids, how to engage learners.
The most important quality for any teacher, I believe, is the ability to connect with the students, because the connection is where the information and skills get developed, not like in a vacuum or something like that. It's the teacher and student connection, and the student and student connections. That human connection is where all of the real learning takes place.